Let's be real. Everyone knows DynamoDB is fast. I mean, we're talking single-digit millisecond response times, which is absolutely incredible for a database at that kind of scale. But what if you need more? What if fast just isn't fast enough? What if you need to be virtually instantaneous? Well, today we're going to dive into that because there's a secret weapon in the DynamoDB arsenal that does exactly that.
All right, so let's set the stage here. It's all about performance. DynamoDB is built for mind-boggling scale, but for those of us working on the bleeding edge, the definition of fast is always changing.
So I want you to really think about this for a second. Is that tiny delay, those few milliseconds between a user clicking something and the database responding, is that holding you back? You know, for a ton of applications, the answer is nope, it's plenty fast. But for some, it's literally the difference between winning and losing.
And the difference we're talking about isn't just a small bump, it's massive. A millisecond is 1,000th of a second, right? A microsecond is a millionth. That's an entirely different universe of speed. For things like real-time ad bidding, high-frequency trading, or super competitive social gaming, that jump from milliseconds to microseconds isn't just a perk, it's the whole game.
So how do we bridge that gap? How do we make that insane leap into microsecond territory? Well, that is where our hero of the day comes in. Let me introduce you to DynamoDB Accelerator, or as everyone calls it, DAX. So what exactly is DAX? Think of it as a supercharger for DynamoDB. It's an in-memory cache that sits right in front of your database tables. And the best part? It's fully managed by AWS, so you don't have to worry about all the tedious stuff like patching servers or managing clusters. It's designed to be a seamless, drop-in accelerator that just takes your read performance to a whole other level.
And you'll see DAX pop up for three main reasons. First, the obvious one, that incredible microsecond read speed we've been talking about. Second, it can actually make your life simpler. Since it's API compatible with DynamoDB, you often need very few code changes to get it up and running. And third, and this is a big one, it can actually save you money. For really read-heavy apps, it can dramatically cut down on how many read capacity units you need to provision on your tables.
Okay, so how does DAX actually pull this off? It sounds like magic, but it's really all about some very smart, very simple caching logic that intercepts requests before they even have a chance to hit your database. The easiest way to think about DAX is like a speed dial for your database. When your app needs to read something, it calls DAX first. If DAX has that item in its memory, doom, that's a cache hit. It sends it back in microseconds, just like that. If it's not there, that's a cache miss, no problem. DAX just seamlessly goes and grabs it from DynamoDB, saves a copy for next time, and then passes it back to your app.
And really, this is the fundamental concept you gotta grasp. A cache hit is where you get that jaw-dropping microsecond speed. A cache miss still gets you that standard, and let's be honest, still very fast millisecond performance from DynamoDB itself. The whole game when you're using DAX is to maximize those cache hits.
Now, you might be wondering, okay, reads are fast, but what about writes? Is my data safe? And this is a super important point. DAX uses what's called a write-through model. This means when you write data, it first writes it to DynamoDB, and only after that's successful does it update its own cache. This guarantees your data is safely stored in the database before you get the OK. No lost writes, period.
Okay, this all sounds pretty amazing, right? But, and this is a big but, DAX isn't the magic bullet for every single workload out there. So let's run through a quick little litmus test to help you figure out if it's the right fit for your application.
This slide right here, this is your decision-making cheat sheet. You'll definitely want to look at DAX if your app is super read-heavy, if you absolutely need that microsecond latency, and especially if you have what we call hotkeys. You know, think of the profile page of a celebrity or the product page for the hottest new gadget. On the flip side, you're going to want to steer clear if your application is mostly writes or if you absolutely positively require strongly consistent reads because DAX is built for eventual consistency.
So, let's say you've run the test, and DAX is a perfect match. What's the payoff? Well, when it's the right fit, the advantage is just huge. Let's wrap up by looking at what it really brings to the table.
When you boil it all down, it's about this, a potential 10x performance jump. We're talking about a fundamental shift from milliseconds to microseconds, and that is a true game changer.
So this all adds up to what we can call the DAX advantage. You get insane speed, you get simplicity because it's a managed service that's easy to integrate, and you can get real cost savings by offloading all that read traffic. It's a seriously powerful combo.
So I'm going to leave you with this one thought to chew on.
For the right application, DAX doesn't just make reads faster, it makes them so fast that the latency almost becomes a non-issue. So ask yourself, what new features, what amazing user experiences, what new possibilities could you build if your database read latency just disappeared?